All right. Let's try to figure out where we're gonna put this. Do we want some type of user input class? I'm gonna say no. I'm gonna say I, I don't know. I think I would rather have. So we have a like different loops, right? We have like the window something or other. I forgot what I called it. So the native window call right here, which will manage the user input. So, okay, I got a default native window function right here. Okay, and this is the non-default one. Yes? No, that's not. So I believe... Okay, loop table tick, native window. Okay, so I think... Oh, and that's a little bit bit much for the level of indirection. Okay, here's what we're gonna do. So we already know where we want the user input events to occur. So we will put them in here. Now, events in JavaScript, well, they're events, right? It's event driven. And this model is going to, we're gonna like do like a poll events kind of a thing, which doesn't really exist. So how do we write that to try to like mimic that, and how do we keep this as organized as possible and make sure the code doesn't go all over the place? So what I think we're gonna do is we're gonna have so global data dot event listeners registered, and this will just be like the in only the JavaScript version, not the C version. And if not, or if false, well, actually, you know what? Screw that. You know, I just I'm sick of using true, false, and exclamation marks. We're gonna use more of a C style. Everything is a number. I don't really find the I used to find the abstraction of like true and false kind of like useful. Now I just see them as clutter and just one more way to do the same thing. Okay, so if our event listeners are not registered, then we'll do some event listener setup code, and we're gonna keep it right in here with this, just for the sake of organization. Even though you may argue, oh, that isn't very efficient because we gotta check this flag every single loop. My response to that is, checking this Boolean is like taking a grain of rice out of a waterfall of rice. It's not a big deal. Okay, so add event listener JS. Add event listener JavaScript. Okay, so obviously I haven't written this enough to have a shortcut at my fingertips yet. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take all this and we're gonna put that into our shortcut script over on the right. and to do blah 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 blah. We'll get to that. We're gonna look up the documentation for it, but right now I believe it's so I gotta think about where we have the canvas. So do I have... Okay, I still have a lot of bookmarks. I'm gonna go Control Alt Shift F2, I think. Yeah, clear all the bookmarks. And we're gonna look at our global data object and see if the canvas is in there. It might not be. Let's just take a scroll on through here. So it actually might be inside of it would make sense to be inside of Adapter Graphics, the canvas. So if the canvas is not inside of Adapter Graphics, we'll probably put it there. If it's not anywhere, I hope it's not anywhere, because it doesn't look like it's inside of Adapter Graphics. And if it's somewhere else, hopefully that place makes sense, because it wasn't my first thought of where it would be. And I kind of want everything to be organized in such a way that when I guess where something should be, that's where it is. So we have our canvas, and I highlighted all instances of this token. So let's, let's just scroll down here, right, and see if it gets assigned to anything. I don't think it is. Okay, var canvas width equals canvas. Yeah, I don't think we have it anywhere. I mean, it's not surprising because I wasn't using it for anything else. So the first thing I want to do is if I have this canvas variable, I think CAN for canvas is a little bit too terse. Like, I'm pretty sure that if I go like Control F on this, that I'm going to pick up things, right? Sometimes I'm going to pick up things that aren't the canvas, like the word can in a sentence. Right? This is not the variable name. It's canvas, but it's not the variable name, right? And I want to be able to like Control F and pop to only references to that variable, right? So I want the variables terse, but I don't want them so terse that when I do like this, like, see, I'm kind of like picking up things that are not that variable. So I don't want to be this terse. Once upon a time, I did want to be that terse, but I've kind of like changed my mind, and I feel like that this is too terse. If we use some type of strange Japanese character, it would be more terse and more unique, so it would solve this kind of problem. But I have experimented with Japanese variables, and I'll say that after a year of coding that way, it's not really maintainable. And also Unicode creates a lot of problems for you when you're trying to code in like different languages that don't like Unicode. Okay, so we have that. Let's go to our project, make sure it's still running, that we haven't broken anything while we've been mucking around here. And the first thing we're going to do is we're just going to change canvas to, I don't know, we could... So I want to keep the, 3-letter variables. So what I could do is, technically it's just a HTML5 canvas. So we could call it canvas HTM. So this, HTM for canvas HTML. Right, because then you have canvas width, canvas height, canvas HTML. That would kind of make sense. Okay, let's do that. I was also thinking about doing this, like canvas, like that. but that's kind of weird. So it's no longer shorthand. It's just this with the space between it. That's a little bit crazy. Let's not get that crazy. So we'll do this, right? And then, you know, in some places we can keep this in the comments. So let's just start refactoring things. The canvas here, we need to let's bookmark that. We should probably make some type of global value that tells us like the initial viewport size, or the initial viewport size, because we're going to make the viewport and the canvas, we're going to make them the same. And this is and we also have to distinguish the entire viewport versus the sub viewports that we were making in the other project. So I'll have to think about that and what to call those to differentiate them. So let's take this. We'll keep these comments for now, but we'll refactor that. Okay, so I think that was all we had. Oh no, so we have this, and canvas width, canvas height, GL viewport, canvas width, canvas height. So since we're here, what we can do is we can, while we're here, right, we can make this function call. We can splay this out a bit. Some people say that if you have to make a function call in multiple lines like this, then you're taking function calls way too seriously. I believe that was actually the creator of Braid. I was reading his... He was like complaining about how crazy like Win32 programming is and how annoying it is. And, you know, somebody like that, I mean, you should probably not just ignore their advice, because obviously they're successful and they've, you know, built something pretty good. So they have the kind of like authority to say they know what they're talking about. And because of that, I will always question my life decisions, because every time I splay functions out like this, I'm like thinking about the Braid guy talking about how crazy I am. Well, not me specifically, but you know, the point is that he's saying, you know, what I'm doing is crazy and a waste of time. Okay, so X, Y, width and height, right? And then we got this canvas HTM. Let's look down here. Buffer width, buffer height. Right, we're just trying to make sure that that matches the width and height of the canvas. And this was because when we were troubleshooting a while ago. And we could actually, because this is, there's no logical grouping here. There's no logical grouping here, but I know this is definitely a section. So I'm going to take this, and we could also, if we wanted to, because we have enough room to add a little bit of extra indentation here, we could indent that a few times. And this is kind of needs more wrapping now, so we're going to take all this, and it's indented 3 times, so we're going to say column wrap I3, 64 columns. And move that back over here. And I don't really like the... Well, you know, it's blue now, so maybe we just stick with that. And I indented 2 times just because I could afford to. I could afford to indent 2 times without, you know, having to worry about going over my column limit. And when I can afford extra indentation, I will use it, just because sometimes sometimes indentation, it starts to, when you have a lot of indentation, it'll start to like form what looks like these like curves in your source code. Like you'll see these like implied curves instead of like rigid right angles. And it starts to get, so like right here, you can kind of see this area right here. It kind of looks like a curve more than like right angles. That kind of annoys me. So when I have extra indentation to use, I'll use it so I don't get that effect in my code. Okay, so CS is for canvas size. And this was originally written for troubleshooting, and so I can make a little note here. So it's like I add all this code for troubleshooting. I found the problem, but I keep the troubleshooting code in to make the code more robust. So this was originally written for troubleshooting. The problem was, and I'm going to just list this for historical reasons. Okay, so there's a note. And this is what you are seeing right now is why people don't like to write comments, because it takes a long time to do this. But I talk too much, and the effect of me talking too much is obviously reflected in my code as well. Okay, yeah, so we're good there. Let's make sure this still runs, make sure we didn't break anything. Okay, that still looks good. Let's check at the console really quick. Console. Okay, so that is still intact. And now that we have changed the variable name, it's going to be a little bit easier to see all references. So, right, so if we go Control-0, we're going to clear that highlighting. But yeah, if we Control-F and we're just like looking for all references to this canvas object, right, we can easily find every single one. Now the thing is I do want to keep the naming consistent, so we'll use the exact same variable when we put this canvas object inside of our adapter graphics, probably. So as far as like where we should put it, I kind of like the idea of trying to consolidate it, right, and just like shove everything in it in one section. So yeah, that's what we're gonna do. We're just gonna keep on. Right, we could do this where we create the canvas, like right when we create the canvas, we could put it in there. But I like to, if you haven't noticed, I like to like batch process stuff. So since all these are very, very similar, I like to just group them all together in one location, like centralize it. That seems to work for me organizationally, because if all these components, if they're like scattered around through the code, peppered through here at different points, that'll make it very difficult. That will make it very difficult to quickly glance at the source code somewhere and be like, oh, do we have all these objects? Are we missing any, right? So the more I can kind of concentrate it in one spot, I think the better. Yeah, so we'll keep on doing that. So canvas HTM equals the canvas HTM, like that. The other thing I want to do is in my reference here, I want to make sure that I don't have anything called can HTM for canvas. So I'm going to make that a new variable in my shortcuts, so right here. And we're going to say canvas HTM like that. And if you type it correctly, then we'll put a little check mark by it. We also want to make sure that you don't type it backwards. And by you, I mean me. Unless you're also dyslexic, then I guess... sorry, this is not what I want to do. We'll say canvas HTM like that. HTML equals HTML equals hypertext markup language. Like, if you really want to de-abbreviate that. But HTM is almost like HTML or HTML is kind of like one of those words like okay, where it's like an abbreviation, but nobody knows what it means anymore. That's slightly hyperbolic. Okay, and then HTM can't, like, if they do it backwards. So that stands for canvas HTM. Okay, so now that we have that in there, we can kind of keep on going. If we needed... Oh, well, actually, there's one more thing we got to do. So with this adapter graphics, since we've kept pretty stringent naming conventions, even though some of our names kind of look like shit, because of a little bit of inconsistency, but we've been pretty consistent with how we create these objects. So I know that the function name should be new in all capital and then underscore adapter graphics. So if I actually look for that, I probably can find it right away. So yep, so I see the call where we're creating it. And here it is defined down here. And what we can do now is we'll just pop that that canvas object in there, because we seal the object so we can't like add anything on the fly, and that's by design, so that when we look at the declaration of this object, we can see everything that it's included in here and we're not met with any surprises. So we'll add canvas HTM here, we'll set that to null. So HTML5 canvas object. Okay, so we got that in there. Let's take a look, make sure we didn't break anything. I don't think we did, but, you know, just in case. Okay, so we're good there. I'm going to stop recording for a second and start a new video.